The Israel-Gaza conflict, an ongoing and complex struggle that has captured the world's attention for decades. But today, the conflict has reached new and devastating heights. As tensions escalate and both sides suffer immense losses, the world watches, and the question remains: where does this war end? To understand the current war between Israel and Gaza, we must first look at the historical roots of this conflict. It's a battle that stretches back over a century, rooted in territorial disputes, religious differences, and political tensions. In 1948, the creation of the State of Israel sparked the first Arab-Israeli war. For the Palestinians, this event marked the Nakba, or catastrophe, as hundreds of thousands were displaced. Tensions have been high ever since, with periodic outbreaks of violence. However, none have been as prolonged and devastating as the current situation in Gaza. The most recent escalation began with clashes at the Al-Aqsa Mosque compound in East Jerusalem. What started as protests over evictions of Palestinian families in Sheikh Jarrah quickly got worse by the rocket attacks from Gaza, led by Hamas, and retaliatory airstrikes from Israel. Hamas, the militant group governing Gaza, justified its actions as a defense of Palestinian rights. Israel, on the other hand, launched a military offensive, Operation Guardian of the Walls, stating that it was defending its citizens from indiscriminate rocket fire. But beyond the rockets and airstrikes, this war has become a symbol of something far deeper: the continued struggle for land, rights, and national identity. While political leaders argue and military forces clash, it's the civilians on both sides who bear the brunt of the war. In Gaza, entire neighborhoods have been flattened by Israeli airstrikes. In Israel, civilians live in constant fear of rocket fire. The human cost of this conflict is staggering. As of the latest updates, thousands have been killed or wounded. The majority of the victims in Gaza are civilians, including women and children. Hospitals are overwhelmed, and humanitarian aid is desperately needed. In Israel, civilians rush to bomb shelters as rockets target cities like Tel Aviv, Ashkelon, and Beersheba. Though Israel's Iron Dome intercepts many rockets, some still make it through, causing destruction and loss of life. The Israel-Gaza conflict has long been a focal point of international diplomacy. But as the war escalates, global powers are once again stepping into the fray, each with their own interests and influence. The United States, a key ally of Israel, continues to supply military aid while calling for de-escalation. President Name has urged restraint on both sides, but so far, diplomatic efforts have yielded little result. The United Nations has repeatedly called for a ceasefire, but resolutions are often blocked by geopolitical alliances. Countries like Egypt, Qatar, and Turkey have also sought to mediate, but achieving peace seems as distant as ever. Meanwhile, global protests have erupted in cities across the world, calling for an end to the violence and drawing attention to the plight of the Palestinian people. While bombs and rockets fly, another war is being waged, the war of narratives. How this conflict is portrayed in the media depends on where you are in the world. Israeli media emphasizes the right to self-defense against terrorism. Palestinian media highlights the disproportionate use of force and the suffering of civilians in Gaza. Social media has amplified these narratives, with videos and images going viral, shaping public perception. But in this age of information, the truth is often the first casualty. Misinformation spreads quickly, fueling anger and division. As the war rages on, many ask, is there an end in sight? Both sides have dug in their heels. Hamas continues to fire rockets, and Israel has vowed to eliminate the group's military capabilities. But the cycle of violence only deepens the divide. History has shown that there are no easy solutions in this conflict. Previous ceasefires have been fragile, and peace talks have failed to address the core issues. Yet, amid the devastation, there are glimmers of hope. Voices from both Israeli and Palestinian communities are calling for peace, recognizing that war only breeds more war. But whether these voices will be heard remains to be seen. The Israel-Gaza conflict is a tragedy that affects us all. It's a reminder of the devastating cost of war and the urgent need for peace. As the world watches and waits, one thing is clear. The solution will not come from more violence, but from dialogue, understanding, and compromise. Only then can we hope for a future where both Israelis and Palestinians live side by side in peace, free from fear, free from war. Let us hope that one day that peace will come.